So, welcome everyone to this Sahaja Yoga meditation, Jai Shri Mataji. Tonight, I want to talk briefly about the particular responsibilities of English Sahaja Yogis as I understand them. That will take about 15 minutes. Then we'll play a short extract from the beginning of one of Sri Mataji's great Caxton Hall talks, which is relevant to this theme. And then we'll have the meditation proper. When I say the particular responsibilities of the English, I mean in relation to the fact that, as Sri Mataji said so often, this country is the spiritual heart of the universe. It is the golden land of Sadashiva, as she said once in Brighton. When I say the English, I mean people who are living in Britain, whatever their origin. Lots of people who have contributed a lot to English history and culture weren't born in this island. Kipling, Orwell, Tolkien, T.S. Eliot, Hayek, Berlin, Wellington, so on. But it could also be said of every Sahaja Yogi insofar as they care about the fate of this country, the heart. The responsibility of the English is very great because they have to circulate the powers of the spirit all over the world. It is only when Sahaja Yoga is properly established here that the transformation of the world can begin in earnest. The Kundalini breaks through the Pitta of the heart in the Sahasrara and then spreads outwards. To quote Sri Mataji, unless and until England rises, the world cannot rise. This is a definite thing. Absolutely, it is as definite as anything. England has to rise first because it is the heart of the universe. And the English Sahaja Yogis have also to awaken to their responsibilities, which is very important. I will give all my blood, all my energies, all that is possible under the sun to awaken this country to its responsibility as a spiritual nature, as the spiritual being, as the spiritual heart, as the donor of blood all over. That is what she said. But then comes the question, have we awoken to our responsibilities? Not really, no. I remember when I first heard that Mother had said that England is the heart. It was at a seminar in Sussex in the winter of 1978. I was thrilled to hear this. It seemed to be something that I knew already, but had never consciously articulated. But I was surprised to find that many of other yogis were not especially moved by the idea. The heart, yes, yes, okay, yes. So what is required of us? There are two sides to this. The first is to seek to understand what it actually means that England is the heart. What are the various aspects of this? How can we pay proper attention to these aspects? How can we take up our cardiac responsibilities, as it were? More is needed than just to sing Jerusalem or sitting in the heart of the universe from time to time. There has to be some serious, heartfelt inquiry into this. The other side of it is to seek to understand the many ways in which the spiritual nature of England, or Britain, if you like, though Sri Mataji almost always used the word England, is being denigrated, attacked, demolished, torn apart by dark forces of division and stupidity. I'll look at these latter first. This is really why I wanted to give this talk, because it seems to me that while the idea of England has been under a kind of cloud throughout my lifetime, it's over the past 3 or 4 years that the attack on it has really intensified. There's been a revisionist presentation of English history as thoroughly evil, irredeemably stained with slave trade and with colonialism, which was totally, unrelievedly bad, bad, bad and bad, and that anyone who has in any way inherited anything from this, which actually means everyone of English ancestry, has a great deal to be guilty about and ought to be apologizing and taking the knee on a regular basis and paying reparations and so forth, in order to do something to decontaminate themselves. Although according to this way of thinking, they can never become wholly decontaminated because they are so guilty in the first place. There is something absurd about all this. It is absurd to demand that people who have nothing to do with slavery, who have never enslaved anyone and would never think of doing such a thing, should apologize to people who have never been enslaved anyway. There is something perverse about it too, when we consider that actually no country did more than England to abolish slavery at great expense, that most of the empire was given up voluntarily in the end, and that all this happened a long time ago at a different period with different understandings of things. While incidentally, there is a great deal more slavery of a sort today in the world than ever there was in the past. And what about that? Of course, this simplistic, one-dimensional view of history is being driven by people who know they can take advantage of it and make a good living out of it, and also by people who feel they can use it to re-engineer society. But at the back of it is something very destructive that wants to weaken the heart by dragging our attention to the past or to an idea of the past and keeping it there, and by making the English feel guilty, because guilt is something to which there is never any end unless it is cut off at the root. So now we have a situation where the people at the head of most of the cultural institutions here, museums, libraries, universities, especially the BBC, are infected by this guilt in a way that is unbelievable to me. How have they let so many parasites into their brains? There has been a complete loss of moral authority, coupled with an epidemic of useless virtue signaling. But sometimes we yogis accept the same reductive narrative too. I remember something that took place at Chelsham Road in the 1980s, which really sums this matter up. There had been an incident at Heathrow Airport. Some worker there had pushed Sri Mataji. It was a reflection of the way the English as a whole were failing to respect her work. But then this incident was used to work up a feeling of guilt. A meeting at Chelsham Road was called. Just yogis, Sri Mataji was in India. Whoever organized it didn't bother to attend, but I remember one person after another saying what a rubbish country this was, how worthless we all were, etc., etc. What would Blake have thought of such behavior? Did they really think this sort of self-abasement was what Sri Mataji wanted? I'm sure she would have preferred the lion to roar, not to grovel and keep saying sorry and we're afraid we've done something wrong. For instance, in the early 80s, Sri Mataji really appreciated, this is a story if you like cricket, the way Ian Botham played the game in such a fearless, wholehearted way. But here we were being pressured into saying, very humble we are, very useless, very inferior, as if our guru was Uriah Heep, not the queen of the universe. Eventually I said something like, well, personally, I love my country, and I've rarely felt such a torrent of cool vibrations in a public meeting as then. So what should we be doing? In Sheffield, Sri Mataji surprised us, I think, by emphasizing the quality of scholarship as a quality of the English. That is the desire to go into things deeply, not necessarily academically, but thoroughly, in a way that combines a feeling for whatever the subject happens to be with an intelligent interest in it too, to take things with a loving seriousness. I think some of that scholarly attitude could well be turned upon this country itself. If the English are to love, they have to love their country. That seems basic. To love it with a discriminating intelligence, that is. To go into its topography and history, to value its good points, its art and literature, its many traditions, its nursery rhymes, which Sri Mataji loved, its beautiful nature and beautiful buildings, the discoveries that were made here, and the way things that were wrong were put right here, those kinds of things. To do this will help us understand what kind of thing the heart is, and also something about the personality of Lord Shiva. The source of all that is good comes from this country. Sri Mataji said in Newbury in 1980, I was there. What a thing to say. It suggests that all good things circulate from or through this country. That is, they may not have originated here, but very often they were codified here and substantiated with scholarship and gravitas here. Of these good things, we can think of, say, English common law, modern democracy, most major sports, maybe the English language itself, which, coming as it does from two opposite streams, down-to-earth Old German and formal, elegant Latin, allows for a great deal of playfulness and expressiveness. Or take something like policing. If you have ever read Robert Peel's Policing Principles of 1829, it's nearly 200 years ago, they have a really ideal quality to them. And unfortunately, they're very far removed from the way English policing mostly operates today, because a lot of things have gone downhill. Sri Mataji went on to add in that Newbury talk, but the people, English people, have lost their self-esteem completely, I feel sometimes, the way they copy French and Americans and things like that. We have to respect ourselves. It's good to be self-deprecating, but not to the point that it becomes abject self-mockery. We have to assume the dignity of the children of the heart without slipping into arrogance on one side or nationalistic thuggishness on the other. We should cultivate an English identity. Yet one of the peculiarities of the situation today is that while Welsh and especially Scottish identities have been championed ruthlessly by sinister politicians, English identity, unless connected with some low-grade popular cultural thing like football or pop music, has been treated as something very largely negative, associated with nostalgia for the empire and so on. England is the heart of the universe, and how could they be so careless about their ascent and so careless about developing their own huge big tree of love? They are the best suited, and they have to work it out, but they don't take it seriously. Sri Mataji said in 1998, "Why? I don't understand," she added. So we should try to understand why and try to rectify the matter. It's easy to say, well, we should love, that's all. That's what the heart is supposed to do. But love can be terribly vague. And that's why I feel the idea of scholarship is so helpful, because it connects love with actual practical things. It suggests a sensible, intelligent, directed kind of love, a wise love, and incidentally, a love that has no time at all for feeling guilty. So that's roughly what I wanted to say. I'd love to have spent more time making it more nuanced and going into it deeper, but you don't want to hear any more of me, I'm sure. So now we're going to play this talk, part of the beginning of the talk Sri Mataji gave in Caxton Hall in 1981, The Heart of the Universe.
It is so heartening to see so many of Sahajogis seated before my eyes, which are really covered with tears of joy and tremendous happiness. You have been blessed by the grace of God to become the real baptized, the real Muslim, the real Jew, the real Christian, the real Hindu. It was to be that in England you had to establish Jerusalem. I need not tell you again and again how important is England in the play of divine. Those who are realized and have experienced know it, that this is the place, this is the country which has to circulate the spiritual powers all over the world. Even when I have traveled in Europe and other places, and I have seen so many seekers all over. In India we have 1,000-fold more. Despite that, very special category of people are born in England. The heart of universe, where the heart has to love, has to radiate, has to circulate, carry all the dirt and filth to be cleared out again. It's nice to see how you all love me and how you have accepted my love. But I would like you to see that you have to love yourself. You have to respect yourself. You have to have self-esteem and not to be driven into crazy ideas of self-pity and guilt. The lethargy, what we call the left-sidedness, has to be thrown away, just like a shell is thrown away by a bird when it comes out of its shell, of an egg. The transformation has taken place, no doubt, but transmutation is the problem today. We have to change dramatically. All our misidentifications have to be dropped. We have to become what we have been aspiring for, which we have become. We have to assume, the assumption has to be not only mental, but is from the heart. The day it will be in England accepted from the heart, the assumption which they have achieved, assumption of the powers, assumption of the state which they have achieved. That is the day, I would say, is the real beginning of a new era for the whole humanity. The responsibility is so great, so very great, that to realize it, you have to start loving yourself, having your self-esteem, understanding yourself. Now the basic problem that the Sahajogis face in England is this. They blame everything to their ego. That this is my ego which makes me do this. This is my ego which makes me think like that. This is my ego that does this wrong. This is just the opposite. Because you want to blame your ego for everything, and that's how you do not want to go further with your progress. You think that you have been very much in the center. It's not true. To be in the center means you must understand whether you have ego or superego, which is giving you this lethargy, this dullness, this kind of vague approach to things. The whole country is suffering from that. You can see it clearly. I was surprised when I went to Portugal that it's like a dead, desolate place, as if people have left that place. They are not willing to rise. They are not going to come up. And this kind of desolate place, which is just decaying and dying, in the huge big buildings that were built there, is a reaction to the ego of the Portuguese. So there should be no reaction at all. There should be no reaction to what your forefathers have done or the way they have been very ego-oriented. On the contrary, to be on the center is to have self-esteem. To understand that you have got your realization now, that you have been blessed specially. To accept it with love towards yourself. If you are bent upon harming yourself, nobody can stop it. You have every right to do that. You have all freedom. But freedom and license are two things. Freedom has to be based on wisdom, and license is nonsense, as you understand. So, all the Sahajogis who are here, I have to just say one thing, that you have to change dramatically. Everything will change.
Okay, so now if we meditate.
We have certain.
Okay, so if we've got our hands out, I'm not going to say very much, but if we just put our attention to the heart and know that we are the spirit, and we have to assume the powers of the spirit in the present and forget the past, which has no power over us unless we let it. Forget the future, which has no power over us, again, unless we let it. Just to be very confident that we are in the attention of the divine, that we have a great guru, a great mother. Nothing can touch us. Nothing can harm us. We remind ourselves of that with our attention on the heart in the Sahasrara. Okay, so Nitin is going to play some sitar music now, Rag Malkans by the great young Indian sitarist Mehtab Ali Niazi, very promising, and we'll play that for about half an hour or so, and then we'll finish.
Saqib Chacha also loves this raga. We were talking about ragas. So when I told him that I was planning to play Malkos, he was so happy. So it was so good to know. And thanks to him also for having me here today. I will be playing a short piece in Vilambit Dhamal.
So we'll end it there for tonight and can raise our kundalinis, put ourselves in pandan. And thank you all very much for attending. Thank you. Jai Shri Master. Yes.